Hello, my name is Tim Wilkie. I am the improperly identified Sherman walking man suspect who was the random passerby that the Toronto police used his image and likeness and put it on the news. The walking man suspect, that's me. So, what I'm talking about, this is a recap of a video that I uploaded to Vimeo, and the title is Kevin Donovan has no journalistic integrity. Nothing. None. Right? So, just so you need to know, Kevin Donovan, he's going back to the court this January 21st, right? So if he fucks this up, Barry and Honey Sherman's murder case is just going to be dead in the water. It's just going to be just gone, nothing, right? He's like, it could turn into a cold case and then it's going to go nowhere, right? So Kevin Donovan, if you don't know, he doesn't like what he views as competition. So I'm going to be breaking down Kevin Donovan's psychology. And this is a 101. This is case study, textbook. This is going to be the textbook example for all of history about people not having journalistic integrity or shitty journalists, right? So we're gonna first talk about Kathleen Goldhar, right? Not as egregious, not as bad as Kevin Donovan. But the fact that I've emailed and tried to contact all of these people, right, it shows that they don't have journalistic integrity. It shows. Like her podcast or, whatever, her segment that she did, it was like a science project. It was like a shitty, like, science project or, like, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Or like some art project. I don't know what the fuck it was. Science fair project. I don't know. Kathleen Goldhar, she made this podcast. It was weird and wonky, and it was real quirky, and it was not substantive, right? The one thing Kathleen Goldhar said that was really interesting, which should have been just like her sole focus of her podcast. Like what? Like you said that there was a UK intelligence officer named Paul Wybrow, and he had an insider from the Toronto police that said that they were going to do a sting operation on Barry Sherman. What the fuck? So that could mean that, sting operation, they could have done a murder, staged a murder, whatever. The fuck? Like, you said that? Really? Someone in the Toronto police was going to set up Barry Sherman with a sting operation. Like, Kathleen Goldhar, like, why wouldn't you just, like, make that the entire segment of your podcast? Like, we want to know, like, who murdered Barry and Honey Sherman. Instead, you have this, like, slice of life bullshit, like daytime television nonsense, family channel garbage. Like, who wants to fucking hear that? No one. So on the scale of like 1 to 10 of like really bad journalism and just no integrity, I'm going to say it's like maybe 5 out of 10 egregious. Like, not that bad, right? But Kevin Donovan is going to be a textbook example 101 of just shitty journalists with no fucking integrity at all. And here's why, right? This is the recap of the other video that I uploaded to Vimeo called Kevin Donovan Has No Journalistic Integrity. And this is why. Because in his psychology, there's a private investigator named Tom Klatt. Tom Klatt, he was friends with or used to work for the Toronto Sun, as far as I know. Either one of those two things, right? And Joe Warmington is the guy, like the lead editorial guy for the Toronto Sun. So a rival publication in the mind of Kevin Donovan. Tom Klatt found some jewelry. He found like a fucking jewelry pendant in the driveway of Barry and Honey Sherman. And Tom Klatt, he had to give it up. He had to give it up to the Greenspan team, which was hired on by Jonathan Sherman, the private investigating team. Now, another thing that's weird, right, is that the Greenspan team had to give it to HHR. HHR was the law firm retained by Toronto police, and therefore, when Tom Klatt gave up the jewelry pendant, likely to the Greenspan team, and then they had to give it up to HHR. HHR gave it up to the Toronto Police, right? So that's how the evidence kind of compiles there. That's how it breaks down. That was the situation. So Kevin Donovan, if you say that there was no jewelry taken from the Sherman's house, I believe that's fucking bullshit. Because I went to Beverly. I believe her name was Beverly. Sorry if I mispronounced her name or misnamed her, but the next door neighbor, Beverly, told me personally that there was a watch stolen from Honey Sherman. Honey Sherman's Rolex watch, the $1 million watch. Right? So if Kevin Donovan says there was no jewelry taken, I think that's bullshit, and I think he's lying. And I think he's actually trying to self-sabotage the Barry and Honey Sherman murder case because of a rival publication. It's just fucking sad. So on a scale from 1 to 10, no journalistic integrity, how bad, how egregious it is, 10,000 out of 10, bad. 10,000 out of 10, no journalistic integrity. You were trying to self-sabotage the Barry and Honey Sherman murder case because you want to go to a new story and you don't want to have to deal with this. What? Lead investigative journalist doesn't want to spend another 10 years on Barry and Honey Sherman, wants to head to do a new story and continue on his legacy run or whatever. No. You were a textbook example of a shitty, immoral journalist, if that's the case. And guess what? You already turned down interviewing me, right? When you know that I have better evidence than you. At this point, I'm pretty sure you're tuned in right now. Because if you're not, that's just another strike for you. So no, like, look, if Kevin Donovan is the best at Toronto Star, they should just jump ship. He should be fired. He should lose his job. He cannot be the representative lead investigative journalist for your company. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. What? Fuck that. Fuck Kevin Donovan. You're such a scummy piece of shit. That's how I'm looking at you right now. So that's what it is, right? If you don't know, now you know. So I want to talk about something a little different. I want to talk about my other video, another recap. Just so you know, I believe that Victor Cerruti, Division 53 officer, likely murdered Barry and Honey Sherman. The zip ties, the method of murder. There's a lot of content on my channel. Policing theory has been proven wrong. And for that reason, I'm just going to recap just a little bit of information here. Because if you don't know, go onto his podcast, For the Gram. The For the Gram podcast by Victor Cerruti and Dom Malella, who is also an officer. In his recent podcast, it's obviously clear that he's very sketchy, that he's still a Toronto police... Sorry, excuse me. Forgive me. I don't know if Dom Malella is a Toronto police officer, but he seems very sketchy to admit that he is, in fact, a police officer. Which kind of police officer? That's the question. From what department? That's interesting. I think that's really interesting. Because even Kevin Donovan said that there was 2 people involved in the murder of Barry and Honey Sherman. So if that is true, right, Victor Cerruti's definitely looking sus. Because at minimum, it's looking like he was the plainclothes officer who was in the driveway, right? Kevin Donovan said that there was a dark-colored sedan. Does sedan mean 4 doors? If sedan means 4-door family vehicle, then the black SUV that was found in Victor Cerruti's driveway, as an undercover cop, it could have been Victor Cerruti, right? He got docked in pay in 2017. For what reason? Did he steal Honey Sherman's $1 million Rolex watch? Right? Did he steal the watch and then have it sold for a legal resale? So go on to his podcast, For the Gram podcast, And I think the title of that was either Internet Trolls, What Do You Do When You're in the Creative Content Slumps? It was either one of those two videos, or sorry, podcasts, where I believe that Victor Cerruti and Dominic Malella were joking about murdering Barry and Honey Sherman. They made references to Barry White, Barry Sherman, Mrs. Doubtfire, Honey Sherman, and David Copperfield, the magician, Jonathan Sherman. Right? He mentioned he made a joke about a Whitesnake song called it's like "Here I Go Again on My Own." It's a very popular song, and in the lyric, "Walk the loneliest road I've ever known." So it's another reference to the Walking Man, and what the joke implies is that they're saying that because this podcast was released in 2022 when the Walking Man video was released. So they're joking about, Barry White, Mrs. Doubtfire, David Copperfield, and then the Whitesnake song, Here I Go Again on My Own, right? Referencing the Walking Man video. The guy who was in the Walking Man video, ha 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 ha, he'll forever be improperly identified or unidentified or whatever. That was the joke. In 2022, you released that podcast, one of those two names that I just mentioned, right? One of those two podcasts with the same name. I forget which one. I'll definitely reference it later. But go back. They released that podcast in 2022 when the Walking Man video was released. So it's looking very sketchy. With all the other evidence that I've compiled, at minimum, Victor Cerruti was the first person out of TPS, outside of maybe a few detectives, that said they had insider information about the Barry and Honey Sherman murder case. He's a Division 53 officer, but he released some sort of Twitter video on Division 33's Twitter page, and he said he had insider information. So that's what it is. Who is Victor Cerruti? Who is Dom Malella? What police department does he work for? And the murder method. So in my other video, when you see the forensic evidence of Barry and Honey Sherman's murder, Kevin Donovan was saying that the murder method, he thought that there was two people because of right-handed and left-handed. The ties on the belts were knotted differently. But if these two men murdered Barry and Honey Sherman, they could have pretty much dangled their legs over the pool railing, right? Over the pool railing, and sat opposite to each other, right? So in that sense, that's why it accounts for there was no left-handed or right-handed. The two men sat opposite to each other while their legs were over the pool railing and strangling Barry and Honey Sherman. And in the picture, the forensic picture of the murder, you see that there's a blood smear, horizontal to the pool railing, likely because of the sitting position that happened while they were murdered. So I want you to remember that, right? If Kevin Donovan says that there was possibly two people who murdered them, then the blood smear on the railing could possibly account for that, and the sitting positions of the murder method could explain why there may have been two murders, and that may explain why Victor Cerruti and Dom Malella may have murdered them. Right? Right. So, again, Kevin Donovan has no journalistic integrity. No journalistic integrity. Fraudulent. Petty, fraudulent journalist. Kevin Donovan. Fake journalist. And I need you to know that. I need the city of Toronto to know that. I need you to know that. This guy has no integrity. Fuck Kevin Donovan. Fuck you. Fuck your career. I'm so fucking angry right now. This guy. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. My name is Tim Wilkie. I am the improperly identified Sherman Walking Man video suspect. And Kevin Donovan is a fucking liar, and he has no journalistic integrity. None.